How many of you here have pets in your home, whether that be a cat or a dog? How many people have rescued their animals from a shelter or a rescue organization? And how many of you have bought your dogs from a breeder? Okay. How many of you have ever entered an animal shelter and walked the rows of kennels looking into the sad eyes of homeless pets wagging their tails, barking, and jumping up and down, begging for you to open that kennel door and give them a chance at a better future? Well, today I'm going to discuss with you all the importance of adopting a pet versus buying a pet from a breeder. Now, I know everyone may be thinking to themselves, why adopt a pet from an animal shelter when you don't know its past and you can just get a puppy and train it right from the start? Well, there are many reasons why adopting a pet is much more important than buying a pet from a breeder. According to the ASPCA, there are roughly 5,000 community animal shelters nationwide, and almost all of those shelters are at a full capacity and they're still growing. This is a picture from an animal shelter, just an example of how crowded it is. Right now, the rough estimate is that about 5 to 7 million companion pets enter the doors of these animal shelters each year, and about 3 to 4 million of those companion pets are euthanized. You may be wondering, where do all of these animals come from? Many dogs, as well as cats, are captured roaming the streets, hungry, lost, and cold, while the other fraction of these pets are surrendered by their owners for multiple reasons. Of the animals lost, only 15 to 20% of them are returned to their owners. So what happens to the rest of those animals who are abandoned? They spend their lives in animal shelters hoping that one day they will get lucky and someone will walk through that door and fall in love with their face. The next question you must ask yourself is, why should we condone breeders to continue bringing animals into this world when there are so many that are still without homes? Currently, about 25% of dogs in animal shelters are purebred dogs, and most, if not all of these dogs are absolutely beautiful. So, if the excuse is that you want a purebred dog, try again. Cats and dogs are no exception when it comes to the population in these animal shelters. Of course, there must be many reasons why people choose to buy dogs from breeders. Most purebred dogs come with papers, and when you adopt a dog, you're not going to get an AKC registered dog from the animal shelter. Many people also argue that it is better to raise a dog from the puppy stage so you can train it and teach it to be the dog that you want it to be. Another reason people prefer to buy from a breeder might be that they want a specific kind or size of dog. People like name brand dogs, expensive breeds that are often used in dog shows and such. But what people do not know is just what kind of conditions these dogs are bred into. Many people who are in the business of breeding and selling dogs work under something also known as the puppy mill. According to Animal Planet, inside the puppy mill, breeders create inhumane breeding situations that result in the harm and suffering of these animals. Breeders view puppies and kittens as product, and their mission is to make a profit. For many, breeding animals is simply defined as another business and a quick, easy way to put cash in their pocket. But the dirty truth behind the puppy mill is that you will find filthy cages full of dogs who sit and wait to be bought. The living conditions are often so filthy that disease easily spreads. And some people experience the loss of a puppy not long after paying big bucks for it simply because it was cute. To help cut down on the number of homeless pets wasting away in the shelters, there are many things that we can do. The number one thing to do is be sure to spay and neuter your pets. Only 10% of pets that come into the animal shelter have previously been spayed or neutered. And when a pet becomes pregnant, this can often lead to that pet being dumped or abandoned. Spaying and neutering is a great way to cut down on the population of unwanted and abandoned pets. Recently, I interviewed the person that manages and runs the Paw Animal Shelter in Lee County, and I learned many truths about the animal shelter. This person stated that the animal shelter usually has one or more purebred dogs at all times. The animal shelter also contains more large breed dogs than small breed dogs, and I also learned that during the fall they receive the most abundant amount of animals, whether those being dumped off or surrendered. Lee County is the second largest county in Iowa for puppy mills, and the conditions are said to be beyond horrible. The Paw Animal Shelter is a no-kill animal shelter, which means that all the animals there will stay there until they find a home or until they die of natural causes. When asked where most of these animals in the shelter came from, I learned that most of them had been dumped by bad owners. When the conversation turned toward breeding, I learned that often when dogs become too old to be bred anymore, they are dumped and found in horrible conditions, such as these. Often a breeder dog is so rough that it is hard to determine the breed of the dog until it can be cleaned up. And the dog on the right is actually a breeder dog that was dumped off and is currently at the Paw Animal Shelter. The manager of the Paw Animal Shelter states that many people consider shelter pets to be damaged goods. And a misconception is that these animals are there because they are mean or bad. That is not the case. These animals are there because they had bad owners, irresponsible owners. So, how can we help cut down the number of animals wasting away in these shelters? First, we must refuse to buy puppies from puppy mills and backyard breeders. We must be sure to spay and neuter our pets. And when we decide to pick an addition to our families, we must first look where adoption is needed. 62% of all households in the United States have pets. So why is there so many homeless animals? 26% of dogs are purchased from breeders, while 30% are adopted from animal shelters and rescues. When adopting a shelter pet, it is important to know that you must have patience. You never know the path a shelter pet has traveled. And you cannot expect them to immediately be the pet that you want them to be. 20% of people who adopt animals from the shelters bring them back because they are not immediately behaving the way they want them to behave. It is important to give a shelter pet a chance to learn new manners and boundaries, but what they do not need to learn is how to love. All shelter pets are capable of loving, and that is all they ask for in return. A chance to have a family to love and cherish, a warm bed, a bowl of food, and a face to lick. So when you find that your heart has an empty spot and you need something to fill that space, please adopt a shelter pet and give a homeless animal a chance at a better future. I was just wondering if anybody has any questions about animal shelters or rescues or breeders or puppy mills. If anybody has any questions? Anybody? Okay, thank you all for watching my speech, and next time you want to get a dog, I really hope that you go to your local animal shelter. There's one in Burlington, there's one in Keokuk, and there's one in Fort Madison, which is the Paw Animal Shelter. And there is a guy in Mount Pleasant who does an animal rescue as well. Yes?
Okay, what's the difference between an animal shelter and animal rescue and a pound?
Pounds are usually like at the vet, and that's just, they're not really an animal shelter. Animal shelters that are no-kill shelters, they just take dogs that are brought to them, they take dogs that are found in the city roaming the streets. A rescue is usually an organization that goes in and takes animals from people that are being abused and stuff like that. Any more questions? Okay, thank you everybody.